everyone, it's Karen with Yes Please PaperCrafts, and today I'm going to be creating a layout for the scrapart-blogspot.com sketch challenge for the month of May. And this is a sketch that I'm going to be using for this challenge. So if you would like to participate, I will leave a link in the description below to the website where you can go and find out all the information about how to join in. And it's really a lot of fun. I think this sketch is really cool. I love all the circular elements on the sketch, and also that it has the tag here. So I think this is going to be a really fun layout to create. So I'm going to be working with a picture of my mom here, and this was a picture that was taken at a crop last year in September. And so this was her first crop ever that she ever attended, and we really did have a lot of fun. So I wanted to scrapbook this picture. So I'm going to be using this picture, and then I'm also going to use this collection. This is from Echo Park, and it's the collection called I Am Mom. And I thought that would be perfect since this is a picture of my mom. And then also I'm going to use some of the ephemera, and I have this pack of ephemera from the collection I Love Crafting. So I thought I might could find something in here as well, since she was scrapbooking in this picture. Okay, so I'm going to just jump right in. I'm going to stop talking and start scrapping, and I'll do a voiceover and talk you through the rest of this layout. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so I'm going to start off here by looking through the different papers that are available in this collection kit. And I loved all the different colors. That one paper there with all the little squares was adorable. And the papers here are very busy, so I did struggle a little bit with what papers to use for this layout. And I'm going to put a copy of the sketch there on the screen so that y'all can see that as I'm selecting these papers. I did think about using this yellow paper because it was one of the least busy papers in there, and I like the color. But as I was looking at that yellow, it was such a strong color, and all the other papers were more muted. So I did find this little cut apart that says, "You're the mom everyone wishes they could have." And I really love that saying. So I'm going to use that for my title, and I decided to pull the papers for this layout based on that card. So as I'm looking through this paper, I'll give y'all a little hint on what's going to be coming up. I didn't read the rest of the rules for this sketch challenge, and so I didn't think about the fact that I was supposed to be using a heart pattern paper and a heart embellishment. And so you're going to see me here looking through all these papers, and I am just going through happily sorting through this paper and trying to select some paper for this layout and not paying any attention to the rules. And that is going to cause me some trouble down the road, but we'll get to that in a few minutes. So the next thing that I'm going to do here is cut apart this paper, and I wanted to cut out that little card that had the title that I'm going to use for this layout. I'm using the Creative Memories 12-inch paper trimmer, and I love using this paper trimmer to cut apart papers because it has this clear piece that you can move up and down the track to visualize where you're going to cut before you actually make your cuts. And so super easy to use and very accurate, and makes it really easy to cut up these cards. Okay, so now I am going to work on this picture, and I decided that I wanted the picture to be a square, and I'm going to cut it down to a 4x4 using that Creative Memories personal paper trimmer. And I also wanted to create a photo mat using some white cardstock. Now I like to do this when I'm using some busy pattern papers because I think it helps the photo to pop off the page. And I'm using the We Are Memory Keepers layering guides to create a 1/8 inch mat all the way around my picture. Alright, next I'm looking at this sketch trying to figure out how to cut these different papers. And I kind of struggled with this a little bit because there's no measurements on this sketch. But I'm just going to start with the largest piece of paper here, and I'm going to cut this piece. I think it was about 8x6 is what I decided on. And then I wanted to cut a strip that I was going to use there at the bottom of my layout. And I don't know why, but I cut like a really skinny piece, like 1 inch, and that was definitely not big enough. So I did cut another strip of paper there that was 2 inches. So I'm going to cut some strips from this paper here that's a stripe, and I'm going to use that for the banner and also for the other pattern paper there at the bottom of the layout and then underneath the picture. Okay, and I knew I needed to have some circle elements for my layout, and the first thing I thought about doing was creating some rings. And I had used this Martha Stewart circle cutter before in a layout. I guess it was my last layout that I did for the Scrap Art Stash Sketch Challenge for April. And I did use this technique where I cut out a circle and then I changed the measurement to a smaller circle and I just kept cutting it. So I ended up here with 3 rings and a smaller circle, and I'm going to try to use that as the circular elements on this page. I thought that it was a really cool idea, but I'm going to change it up a little bit, and you're going to see why here in a few minutes. But I'm going to work on this banner and cutting that flag at the end, and I just cut up the middle and then cut from both sides. Created that banner, and I'm trying to lay all this out to see how it would look. And I was kind of at first a little bit concerned that this layout was just looking way too busy. It just wasn't really coming together like I was hoping it would. And I thought about matting my picture with that red cardstock or red pattern paper, but I decided that I didn't want to do that. And so you can see here how the layout is coming together. And there's just something about it. I think the papers that I had selected, that stripe and the floral, were just too close in scale and color, and they didn't really stand out from each other enough. And so I thought, well, maybe I should bring in some more navy. And I got a piece of navy cardstock here, and I'm going to cut out some more circles. So I thought about taking the ring that I had and filling it with the blue cardstock, the navy cardstock. And so I'm going to go ahead and try to do that. And I didn't really intend to make a ring. I wasn't thinking about it when I did this. So the first circle that I cut there wasn't big enough. So I'm going to cut this apart and turn that into a ring, and then I'm going to use the smaller circle there for one of the other rings. And I thought, well, maybe I can take another pattern paper and fill in, and I'll have a ring of red, a ring of navy, and then this paper with the butterflies. And my mom really loves butterflies, so I did think about that when I was picking out this paper. I thought, well, that'd be really cool. That's one of her favorite things in the whole world is butterflies. Okay, so now that I have all these circles cut out, I'm going to lay all of these pieces back onto my layout to try to get an idea if that is going to work better than just having the rings. And I was just really amazed at the difference that it made filling the rings with this navy cardstock and that pattern paper. It just gave so much more weight to those circular elements on my page, and it made the layout look a lot more balanced. And so I really did like having the navy cardstock there. It also kind of made that navy title look more cohesive and like it belonged on the layout, where before it kind of stood out. So as I was putting all that back on my layout, I flipped that butterfly paper over, and I had this striped paper, and it had little hearts all over it. And so I actually liked that better. And so I flipped the paper over and I used that side. Well, it was a really good thing that I did that because I needed to use a heart pattern paper for this layout. And I did not read the rules until the layout was almost entirely finished. And so I would have had to, you know, think of something to do to fix that if I had not, if I had used the butterfly paper instead of using that one with little hearts. So that was a happy accident. Okay, but when I flipped it over and now I'm using the stripe side, I thought, well, this stripe is competing with the stripe that I have for this banner, and I decided that maybe I could trim the banner down a little bit so that it was, I wanted to have color on either end. I think it had white on the edges, and there wasn't enough definition between the edge of the banner and that other stripe that's in the circle. And so just by cutting that down and cutting off the white part, I think it really did look better because it gave some separation between those two striped papers. Okay, so I'm going to start gluing all this down, and I'm going to start from the bottom, and I'm going to try to lay these papers out. And I was doing this, and I really wanted that circle to be there and be able to see the circle. And I don't know what I was thinking when I was gluing all this down, but I glued the circle down with some liquid adhesive, and now I'm using an ATG gun to put these strips of paper on there. And I was trying to line up the left-hand side with the edge of my paper. And then I flipped the paper over, and I'm going to trim it off with my paper trimmer. And I didn't even realize that I covered the circle up until I flipped the paper back over. And then I was like, well, I don't even know what I was thinking when I did that. Because I almost completely covered up the entire circle. Well, I couldn't move the circle because the circle was glued down. So I couldn't make the circle, I couldn't pull it off and lift it up. And so what I'm going to end up doing is taking off those strips of paper and just making them skinnier and just making more of it fall off the page. I didn't really want that cluster to be that big anyway, so I did want my circle to be about that size. I just put those strips of paper on there and wasn't really paying attention to the placement there to make sure that I didn't cover up my circles. I kind of struggled with this quite a bit, trying to get those papers on there and overlapped, and I had all that ATG adhesive on there, so it was quite challenging. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and trim this again using my paper trimmer, and once I got all that trimmed up and I fixed that, it did look really good. So I'm happy that I didn't move up the circle because I think that that would have made that uh, embellishment cluster there at the bottom too large. All right, so I'm trying to figure out the placement for this circle that's going to be at the top of my layout. And so I'm putting all this paper back on here, trying to figure that out. And I knew that I wanted to pop up my title, so I'm going to go ahead and put on some foam tape onto the back of this card so that I can pop that title up on my layout and make it stand out a little bit more. So I had a lot of fun working with this sketch, and I find that when working with sketches, I do things differently than I would if I was just kind of doing it on my own. And so I think it's really a great tool to use when you're doing scrapbook layouts. And it's really a lot of fun to try to interpret a sketch. You don't ever have to follow the sketch completely. I think the sketch is just there to give you creative inspiration. And also, the design team that I'm on has 10 members, and each time we have a challenge, all of the layouts from all of the different design team members are posted on the website. So if you want to see even more layouts using this sketch, please be sure to go to the scrapart-blogspot.com website, and I will put a link in the description below to that website, and you can check out their layouts. And also, if you want to participate, all of the rules and the sketch and everything that you need is there on the website. I decided to add a tag to my layout because there was one there in the sketch. And I love adding tags because I think it gives an opportunity to build an embellishment cluster. And I also like using twine or ribbon on the layout. And I love putting twine through the hole there in the tag. And I'm going to add some twine later. So I'm trying to figure out the placement for this last circle, and as I was trying to do this, I thought, well, this is not really looking too much like the sketch. There's not enough white space between the circle at the bottom and that circle there under the picture. And so I decided that I would pull this all apart, and I'm going to trim that paper down and make it shorter so that it's going to allow more white space, and I think that really worked out so much better because I can see more of the circles there, and I really did like that much better after I trimmed that floral paper down. Okay, so I'm just trying to figure out here the placement of that circle. And one of the things that's kind of funny when you're working with circles like this is that you really don't need a whole circle if the circle is going under the paper. And so I did cut some of the circles in half. So I did think about putting both the title and the picture on top of that floral paper, but I really didn't like how it looked. And you'll notice something kind of weird about my layout right now. It looks crooked. Everything about the layout to me at this point was looking very like something was really, really off, and I couldn't figure out what it was. and I knew that my paper was on there straight, the floral paper. I did try to adjust it here, and I was pretty sure that it was on there straight. But what I figured out was that that paper that I had there, the stripes with the little hearts, it was actually glued on there crooked. And because I used liquid glue, I wasn't going to be able to pull that off and fix it. So I'm going to have to cut another circle. And so I just went ahead and cut out another circle here, and I'm going to layer that on top of the one there. And this time I'm going to glue that on so that the lines are going straight across. It's really strange how it created almost an optical illusion that the layout was crooked just because those lines were not going straight across. Okay, so after I got that back on there, I realized that I had cut my circle a little bit too big. And I'm going to try to cut this circle down, but when I tried to do this, I didn't get a good cut. And it was, the more I tried to fix it, the worse it got. So I just went ahead and grabbed my paper and cut another circle. But I almost had it there, but I just messed it up. The more I work with it, the more I messed it up. So I'm trying to figure out the size of the circle, and maybe I should have measured that before I tried to cut it out the first time. But I guess I thought I knew what size it should be, and I cut it a little bit big. Okay, so now I'm going to put this circle on top of the other one there and make sure that the lines are going straight across. And that I'm even going to use my T-ruler there and make sure I've got that on there straight. Okay, so that looks so much better. I just can't even believe just that one little thing made my layout look so crooked. And I'm even going to use my T-ruler there to get that floral paper on there straight. All right, so I decided that I really did like having the title kind of going off the edge of that floral paper. And so I did shift my picture over a little bit. And I'm going to start gluing things down and getting some embellishments and start really finishing off this layout. So I think I really need to challenge myself to use my rulers more because I sure do get myself into a lot of trouble when I'm creating layouts, and I just try to eyeball things, and I think I know what the measurements are, but I don't. And so I just make a mess. So I think I need to probably just do that next time and make sure that I know what my measurements are before I start cutting things up. Okay, so I'm looking through this ephemera, and this is from the I Am Mom collection. And I love the ephemera from Echo Park. One of the things, though, that I find very challenging is that there are so many pieces in there that have words on there. I just wish that they had more things that were just shapes and images because it would give you a lot more things to embellish your layout with. You can only put so many words on a layout. I love using words, but I think that sometimes there's just too many words on the different dies in that ephemera pack. Okay, so I got out my camera punch. This is a new punch for me. This is from Creative Memories, and it's called Camera Love, and it makes the most adorable little camera. And it punches out the middle as a heart. And I'm just taking these little cameras that I punched out. I punched out one in pink and one in navy, and I'm layering the pieces back on there and making a navy camera with a pink heart and a pink camera with a navy heart. So I did that by just taking a small scrap of paper and gluing it to the back of the camera. And I used my ATG gun so that whole area is sticky, and I was able to just take those little pieces and stick them right onto the little camera there. And so it was really easy to do, and I think that it really adds a lot to this camera to use two different colors of cardstock or pattern paper and just kind of do some paper piecing. And so I thought that turned out really cute. Okay, so I wanted to find some other things to put on my layout, and I did find this little quote, and it says, "First my mother, forever my friend," and I thought that was perfect for this layout. And I'm going to look through this other pack of ephemera. This is from the I'd Rather Be Crafting collection. And I found a little saying there that says, being crafty is not a hobby, it's a way of life. And I thought that was a really good quote for this layout because my mom's been crafty her whole life. She just recently started scrapbooking, but she's primarily a quilter and she loves to sew. And she also does painting and other types of crafts. But her passion is fabrics, and then mine is paper. So it's been really awesome, though, that she's been scrapbooking with me. Okay, so now I am looking through these flare buttons and trying to find something that'll match this layout. I recently got a button maker, and so I have been going crazy creating these flare buttons, and I was able to pick out a few here that I thought might go on this layout. I have this one that has a little coffee cup and then the rainbow, and the one that I decided to choose though was that blue one at the top that says here and now. And I picked that one because I love the color and I thought it brought that lighter blue color up to the top of the layout, which was really awesome because I had the quote at the bottom there that had that blue, and then the title also had that light blue color. Okay, so I'm looking at this 12 by 12 sticker sheet that came with the collection, and I was able to find 3 butterflies, and one was yellow, one pink, and one blue, and I'm going to put one of those in each one of my clusters. I also found a little pink camera that I'm going to put over there by the title, so I'll have a camera in each cluster as well. So I also looked at this cut apart, this paper that was also part of the collection to see if there was anything there that I could use. But most of the sayings on there didn't really fit this layout. So whenever I put butterflies on my layout, I love to add foam tape to each side of the wings so that they're kind of three-dimensional and the wings pop up from my layout. I also added some foam tape to that little quote at the bottom of the layout, and I'm going to put just a little bit of foam tape on the top portion of that quote there that is the one at the top of the layout, that red one. I just wanted it to kind of pop up from the layout, but I didn't want it to stick too much over the picture. Okay, so I'm trying to figure out where these butterflies are going to land and where all these embellishments are going to go. And my flare button was not a flat back flare button. I had an open back on that particular one. And so I'm just going to layer some foam tape inside of it, and that makes it flush with the layout so that I can glue it onto my layout. I'm going to add some twine, and I'm looking at my ring that I have here, which I have all of my twine, and I'm going to cut off a piece here that is a blue and white twine and add that to the top of the tag. I just love adding twine to a layout. I think it's really fun, and it gives a lot of texture that's different than the paper. So I'm just going to start adding a few finishing touches to this layout, and I really wanted to put a paper clip on this layout, and I thought that I could fit one up there at the top cluster. And I found this gold paper clip, and it had the word love, and I thought that was the perfect color for this layout. I think both the pink and the red match this layout really well. Okay, so I'm going to try to stick down the rest of these butterflies and try to find a place for them to land. And I moved that butterfly around quite a bit trying to figure out where to put it, but I finally did figure it out. But it did fly around some more before it finally found its place on my layout. I just think that butterflies are so much fun to put on a layout, but I just have a hard time sometimes just making them land somewhere. So there, I stuck it down finally. Okay. I like to glue down my twine because I find that if I don't glue it down, then when I go to take pictures of it or put it into the scrapbook album, it usually just looks really messy and it doesn't look right. So I like to just glue it down. I'm just going to stick my punch there on top of it until it dries. Okay, so I'm going to add some enamel dots to this layout because I just love enamel dots, and I think it's like adding jewelry. It's like the finishing touch. And I picked out a red enamel dot, a navy enamel dot, and a yellow, and I scattered those around my layout. So I do have some close-ups of this layout at the end if you want to stick around for that. I also have a short video clip of my two dogs, Bella and Lily Bell, that was taken earlier this year, I think in February or March, and that is at the very end. So if you want to watch that video, stick around to the end. So I hope y'all enjoyed this scrapbook process video, and if you did, please give this video a like, and if you would like to see more videos, please subscribe. I would love to have you join my channel. So I hope I've given you some inspiration on using this sketch, and I hope you join in on this month's sketch challenge. And so that's all I have, and I hope y'all have an awesome week, and I will see you next time. Bye now. Hey girls, y'all look all comfortable over there, but why are you on your old bed? It's so funny. I bought this really nice, comfy, big, huge bed for them, and they're on the little bed. Y'all are too funny. Are y'all ready for bed? Is it bedtime? Time to go to bed. Okay, let's go, B. Bedtime. You going? Come on, let's go. Right up. You don't want to go to bed? I usually always like to go to bed when it gets late. Did you want a belly rub? Is that why you don't want to go to bed? How about a head rub? Want the head rub? Want the belly rub? Okay, Doodle, let's go. Bedtime. Come on. Come on, Chicky. Put you to bed.